Well, here's a quote for you. Every battle is won or lost before it's fought. Any idea where that comes from? I think I heard it here. Sun Tzu, that's right. Jason at the back, very good. From the 6th century general and master of war, Sun Tzu, who wrote, of course, The Art of War. Every battle is won or lost before it's fought. Jesus said something similar. He said, suppose one of you wants to build a tower, won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? The message is clear. It's one thing to have a mission, and it is something entirely different to be able to complete that mission. And the difference often comes down to just one word: strategy. Strategy. If your strategy is to start building and hope that you have enough money for the permits and to pay your workers and the insurance, the supplies, well, you're likely to fail. If you wage war without advanced scouting or planning or training, then you are also likely to fail. And so every battle is won or lost before it's fought. And that goes for war, construction jobs, and also for churches. Every church needs to understand what their mission is. Why do we exist? Every church needs to answer the question, what do we care about and where are we going? And every church has to have a clear strategy to answer the question, how will we get there? And so over the last 4 weeks, we've been talking about just that. We formed a future ministry team who would help us answer those questions, and then they asked me to bring them to you. And today's the final day where I will talk about the strategy. And for those of you who'd like a recap, our mission is to know Jesus and to make Jesus known. That's sort of our overall mission that every church in the world has, but this is how we phrased it. You can phrase it any way you want. This is how we've chosen. But our mission, the reason we exist, is to know Jesus and to make him known. And if you'd like more info on that, you can go back a few weeks and watch the sermon on that. Where our values are, what do we care about? And of course, our vision answers the question, where are we going? And our vision is to be a safe place where faith, hope, and love connect with real life. So that's our mission, our values, and our vision. Now here's the thing. Alone, these are just statements. These are just sentences. These are just words on a screen. They mean absolutely nothing. They're ideas, they're hopes and dreams, but they mean nothing unless they're your hopes and dreams, your vision, your mission. Now, not only do they need to be your mission and your vision, you also need a strategy to take us there. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today. Our future ministry team has worked really hard on the following plan for growth, and I'd like to take you through it. I have no idea how long this will take. It could be a short sermon. We'll see. It depends on how off book I go. It's very simple. It's a 3-step process. We want to strengthen the core, foster deeper connections, and engage our community. That's our strategy. Let me take you through it in more detail. So strengthen the core. Before I go any further, I want to say that when we put this strategic plan together, we were very aware of our resources. Now, when you think about resources, you might think about our building. You might think about the money in the bank. But for us, the biggest concern was our human resources, our people. And if we had made this plan before COVID, I think we may have been a little bit more ambitious. But I don't know about you, but I look around after COVID and I realize that we've lost about 1/3 of our congregation. And we've gained some people during that time, which is amazing. but things just aren't the way they were. So we had to have a realistic strategy, but also one that will take a little bit of faith. Because if your strategy is so realistic that it requires no faith in God, well, then it's probably not a God-directed vision or strategy, right? So when it comes to strengthening our core, what I mean by that is the real fundamental basic things that a church has to do. What are those things? What are those fundamental things? Well, number one, we need to reevaluate our ministry team structure. Now, the session is the leadership of the church. A little bit of Presbyterian polity for those of you who might be new to the denomination. The session is our active elders who gather once a month or as needed, and their job is to look after the spiritual heart of the church. Ultimately, they're the highest authority in the congregation. Besides, when we have a congregational meeting, they can only make recommendations and the whole congregation has to approve it. But outside of that, their job is to take care of you. And the biggest way they do that is through ministry teams of session. And so you're familiar with the teams, you just might not know that they're teams of session. Mission and outreach team, right? Put your hand up if you have ever served in mission and outreach. Okay, so a number of you, so you know what we're talking about. And that would include the soup kitchen. Although the soup kitchen is so independent that sometimes we forget they're part of the church because they're just so efficient and so self-contained, but they are a part of the church. How about property and finance? Yeah, those folks, they look after, well, guess what? The property and the finance. Their job is budgeting and paying the bills and writing checks and making sure that the grass is cut. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but Randy was here for about 3 hours this week cutting those 18-inch high grasses outside. Can we give Randy a round of applause for that? I think he worked a longer day here than me that day. Yeah. So I left, but I came back. Don't you think? And so we need to reevaluate our ministry teams. And we had some pretty great functioning teams before COVID, but then we stopped everything, right? Like we couldn't literally do a whole lot. And so when we came back, Sunday school for a while was a person of one. And now we have 3, which is awesome. But we need to really rebuild our ministry team structure. And the SIT team is working on that as we speak. You're going to hear more about that in the future. We need to mobilize resources for our kids and our babies. Let me just put it out there plainly. When people come to a church, they have kids or grandkids, they want to know that there is a ministry for their kids and grandkids. And if they walk in and there isn't, they're going to walk out and never come back. And so it's really, really important that we mobilize resources into our kids' programming because we have a really good core group of leaders, but they need support. And we have no nursery right now. We used to. We don't anymore. So why would the Lord send us any young families with babies knowing that we can't take care of them? He's not going to. And if they do show up, again, they're never coming back. So strengthening our core, like these are fundamental, basic things that we need to figure out how to make happen. C, we need to refresh some spaces. I know that sounds weird. The building is listed for sale, right? It could take years for the building to sell. And even if we do get a buyer in 45 days, it could take a year or more for them to get the proper permitting from the city, from the town, to do what they need to do to make it official. That's exactly what happened with River of Life, right? So we're here for a while. When you come in the First Street entrance next time, I want you to come in as if you're a visitor. You've never been here before. Tell me what you see. How accessible is it? What's the signage like? What's the condition of the paint? What does your entrance communicate about the congregation you're about to visit? Do they have pride in themselves and in their building? Or have they just kind of let it go? You know, like that city that I mentioned in the 1950s who was bought up by the power company. It was soon to be underwater. They just let their homes go. Why fix it? Well, we're still here. We're still stewards of this building. So we're suggesting that we don't dump thousands of dollars into the building, but maybe we can refresh some of our key spaces. D, research and implement a guest experience program. This came to me when I was in Disney in late November. I went to Walt Disney World, and I have to say, it's the unhappiest place on earth for dads. Unhappiest, yeah, in case you didn't catch that. My kids loved it. It was a waking nightmare for me. But one thing I did notice, and I was so impressed by, was the guest experience that Disney worked so hard on. When you go to the Magic Kingdom in Florida, they funnel tens of thousands of people a day through those gates and then back out again. And they want to make sure everyone has a magical experience while they're there. And I was just amazed how efficient they were, the signage they had. It was so easy to know where to go and what you were supposed to do because they had invested hundreds, probably millions, into figuring out how to make the guest experience great. And when you enter a ride, they've got TVs that are kind of interactive and they're talking to you, and there's just things to look at everywhere. Everything's clean. The bathrooms are available. Water is plentiful. The guest experience is fantastic. Unless you're a dad like me and you're holding the purse. Yeah. What is it like when you're a guest of Knox, Midland? Does someone tell you where the washrooms are? Do they explain the Sunday school, the ages for Sunday school? Do they invite you to a small group or make you aware of that? Do you feel comfortable when you walk in? Are you greeted with a smile? Now, we have a very friendly congregation. I believe that. But these are things that you have to be intentional about. So I'm suggesting that in order to strengthen our core, one of the things we need to do is implement a guest experience program where we research best practices, look at what other churches are doing, and say, how can we make sure that every person who comes through the door feels welcomed, they know where to go, they know what to expect. Because we get people through the door all the time. Churches talk about, we need more people, we need more people. Well, they're coming to us, but do they feel like we're going to meet their needs? Is this a place they want to plant some roots and become part of our community? And E, this one's really on me. Strengthening our core, I was thinking not only of some practical things, but also our hearts, our spiritual lives, right? So I think it would be good if I did 3 teaching series a year that didn't happen on a Sunday morning. And I think membership every year is something we should be doing, and I think it's needed. Maybe something on discipleship, so that's like prayer, spirituality, practical spiritual things. And then I know in February when we did Mental Health Month, it was really well received. And I think we should do a series on mental health. Maybe we bring in a guest speaker or 2 we can advertise in the community, and I could partner with that guest speaker or whatever it is. So strengthening the core, that's kind of our plan. The next part is fostering deeper connections. And one of the things that we need to do is assess the health of our small groups and restructure or support them as necessary. Some small groups might be ready to split and form 2 vibrant groups. Some small groups are just doing great as they are, but maybe they need a little bit of support with curriculum or book ideas or whatever it might be. And I bet you there's need for a few more groups in our church, because small groups is where a lot of our community, a lot of our fellowship, a lot of our spiritual training, a lot of our prayer happens. If you're in a small group right now, you know how vital these are to your lives. So we'd like to see more people involved, and it's something that we need to do. We need to hold fellowship events. Sometimes they're called bridge events, because sometimes people are intimidated to come out on a Sunday morning and listen to a guy preach or a woman preach up front. but they'll come to your church gym for a potluck luncheon or a karaoke night or a chili supper or whatever it is. And so it kind of bridges that gap between the congregation and people who are not quite ready to come on a Sunday morning. And the idea is if they feel more comfortable in the gym, one day maybe they'll migrate up on a Sunday morning, or maybe they'll have something in their lives that might call me up, and this happens all the time. Reverend, I met you at this function, and my mom just died, and I really need someone to do the funeral. Would you do that? And I'm so privileged to be able to come into their lives and do that for them. And it's all because of a connection that happened outside of Sunday. And the other part of this too is that if you are a member of a church, let's say you're new to a church, you're not even yet a member, what is the deciding factor that says, yes, I want to make this my home church? I want to commit to this church, I want to become a member, or I want to be an adherent that's just always here, always active. The number one thing is the preacher. If you don't like the preacher, you're not coming back, okay? So right there, we're in big trouble. Let's be honest. Yeah, stop nodding your head. You're supposed to say, no, Pastor. Number two, and it's a very close second, is the praise team, the music, right? If you have a great music program and you have a likable pastor, then people are going to want to come back. But here's the key, okay? Here's the key. They'll come back for 2 months. They might come back for 6 months. They might even come back for a year. But if there's not that number 3 ingredient, they will not stay. And that is community. If they don't get to know people in your congregation, become friends, find people that they can pray with, people they might even have a barbecue with or a dinner with, then eventually they will leave. No matter how good the pastor is, no matter how good the music is, people eventually need to find that community. And so post-COVID, we haven't really done any community stuff, have we? Because, well, we've been afraid of spreading disease that could kill people. But it's time for us to figure out how at least once every 3 months we can have some kind of fellowship events to let people get to know each other better. We need to celebrate milestones like birthdays and graduations and anniversaries. And this isn't a huge job, but it is a job for someone who's really detail-oriented and can stay on top of things. Just so people know that we know it's your birthday and we want to celebrate that with you. We want to celebrate graduations and milestones with you. I think it'd be a great idea to develop a prayer request program where we could send in prayers and pray. You know the session prays for you every month when we gather together. We do pray for you. I usually say, all right, it's time to talk about pastoral care. Who needs prayer? And we start listing people and what they're going through in brief terms. And everything is confidential in session. And then we pray for them. Well, if you send us your requests, we could pray for you in even better detail. And I'm sure there's things out there we don't know about, we can't pray for. And I think we need to, and this is for every church, we need to nail down online worship to be less passive. So online worship right now, you just watch. You're out there now, you're watching me, I'm up here talking, right? But they're not able to look at each other, right? They're not able to see you. There's no interactivity, so it's kind of like watching a TV show. But church isn't a TV show, is it? It's God's people gathered together worshiping Him, right? Doing His will. So there's got to be a way to figure that out. I don't know what it is, but we got to figure that out. And we need to see what other churches are doing in that area as well. So just to back up, we've got, I got to go way back. Strengthen our core. We've got foster deeper connections. And number 3, engage our community. A lot of this section comes out of New Beginnings. Do you remember New Beginnings? Doesn't it feel like it was 8 years ago? But there was a lot of excitement, a lot of talk in the congregation about how we can engage our community. And that has always been a big part of Knox Presbyterian Church. It's always been fundamental to who we are. We hosted for 10 years the shelter downstairs, no problem, didn't even think about it. We have a thriving soup kitchen in the community. I mean, there's just so many ways that we want to be involved in the community, but we think that we need to be a little more strategic. So, we think, why don't we participate in 2 community events here? Because as much as we like to invite the community in, how often do we go out there and do that, at least as a group, right? So, for example, when the shelter had that walk in the winter, that coldest night of the year, and there were 5 or 6 of us showed up, I think that said something to the people who were organizing it. It said, what? Knox Church cares, right? So, again, being aware of our human resources, we thought, let's pick 2 community events a year and we'll go in on those. Be part of that community, right? And in a similar vein, why don't we then invite 2 community groups to come in and use our space free of charge? Kind of adopt them, if you will. And for example, I think I've already got one lined up, and that is a really great program that brings in food, uses our kitchen, and teaches people how to cook healthy, good meals. And it's a really great program because then they eat the meal together, they have community, right? And then they take food home with them. So it gives them community, teaches them how to cook healthy meals, and then provides food. I'm like, that's an amazing thing that we could support. Come in, use our kitchen, it costs us nothing, but it's a blessing to them, right? So let's just find 2 groups, adopt them, so we're going out or coming in. And maybe 10 years from now, we've got 10 groups, but we'll start where we can and build our way up from there. Adopt a community cause. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with events, but is there a cause? Like, for example, we have, and I don't know if I've even told you, there are bottles at the back right now for, what are they called now? It used to be the Crisis Pregnancy Center. Compassion Place. Compassion Place is a fantastic resource in town for moms-to-be and new moms. And I understand that they're very open and they're very welcoming of everyone who comes through the door. Right now, there's a red box back there filled with bottles. And if you take one home and you put change in it, or 100, whatever you've got laying around, we're going to collect those on Father's Day and give them back. So, it can be as simple as adopting a community cause like that or something bigger. We want to support the soup kitchen better. Again, like I said, it's almost like they're their own thing. So how can we tie in with them? How can we better get to know their clients in a sensitive way and invite them into the life of the church, right? And provide further support to the clients at the soup kitchen and support for, of course, the leadership. Develop a New Beginnings ministry. What do I mean by that? Well, we had a lot of ideas generated during New Beginnings, ways that we can reach out into the community. Let's take one of those on. Now, important to note, all of this stuff we're running through is not going to happen in the next 6 months. We're looking at over the next 2, 3, maybe 5 years. This is a strategy that's going to take some time to see to its fruition. But I think there is, within the heart of the church, capacity for a new ministry. Maybe one idea I've heard is we have a lot of homeless people in the winter who have nowhere to go during the day. Maybe we pick one day a week and we bring them in and warm them up on a Tuesday afternoon in the gym. Maybe we project a movie, have some coffee, have some snacks, play some games, get to know those people, support them, and get them off the street for a few hours to warm up. Just one idea. It doesn't have to be that, but something. And we need to let people know we're here. Some people ask me if we've moved, if we're closed. When I tell people I'm the minister at Knox Presbyterian Church in Midland, and I'm like getting a haircut, they're like, where? What church? Like, we're here. We're doing great stuff. We have amazing worship and amazing people. Let's let people know we're here. And we need to utilize YouTube and social media. And this one really is kind of a project for me to do. There's so much untapped potential there. And I think I have an inkling of an idea of how to make that happen. So we'd like to branch out through YouTube and social media. So there we go. That's our plan. But here's the thing. A strategy will only take you so far. Because Sun Tzu said in the beginning of this message, I quoted him saying that, well, to get it exactly, every battle is won or lost before it's fought. Every battle is won or lost before it's fought. And that goes beyond having a strategy. It goes deeper, far deeper to the heart. If we don't wholeheartedly, as a group, believe in this, then we might as well not do it. You need to believe in your mission, Sun Tzu would say. You need to be sold out to your vision. I really believe that we're called to make Jesus known in this community. We're really called to help others know him. We're really called to be a safe place where faith, hope, and love connect with real life. You need to believe in your mission, be sold out to your vision, and you have to be determined to succeed. Because there are obstacles in our way. And there will be new obstacles that we haven't foreseen yet that pop up. I remember a couple of years ago when we were preaching, like, we're going to swap buildings, it's going to be great, it's going to be easy. It wasn't. We're still here. We're still praising the Lord. We're still ministering to every single person that we can who walks through these doors. Do you know that water skiing is only about 100 years old? You ever heard the story about the first guy to water ski? Okay, good, because I'm going to tell you. 100 years ago, well, 101 now, on a cold winter Minnesota day, while doing some downhill skiing with fellow neighborhood kids, Ralph Samuelson had an idea. He said, what if we didn't just ski downhill on snow? What if we could ski on water? And he looked out and he saw the family boat. And he looked down at his skis and he said, let's give it a try. So in the summer of 1922, Samuelson, who at the time was only 18 years old, began to stand up on skis, or at least try to, on Lake Pippin, which is just a few blocks from his house in Lake City, Minnesota. Water skiing was invented in Minnesota, of all places. So he began with regular downhill skis. With his brother driving the boat, he strapped the skis onto his feet. He said, give her. I'm guessing. He said, give her. Give her. Hold my beer. Give her. And he sank like a stone. Just sank like a stone. And so he tried barrel staves. You know, like they're already curved to make a barrel as, like 30 or whatever barrel staves. So he strapped some of those to his feet, got the rope and the boat. He said, all right, bro, give her. And he sank like a stone. Well, after some consideration, he realized that he needed something wider, something that covered more of the surface of the water. And so he went down to the lumber mill to see what he could find. And there he spotted 2 8-foot-long, 9-inch wide pine boards. And he used his mother's washing boiler to soften the end of each board. And then he used some clamps to sort of keep them in a bent shape. He affixed some leather straps to them. He had an iron worker make a ring for him. And he went out and he bought 100 feet of window sash cord. And he put it all together. With much excitement, he got in place on the shore. His brother gunned the converted Saxon truck engine in the boat. He waited for the line to go taut, propelling him into the history books. And then he sank like a stone. He sank like a stone. But he was not deterred. He knew it was his mission in life to ski on water. He could see it. He could envision it like the Wright brothers in flight. He just knew that he was the guy who was going to be the first, and he would not be deterred by failure. And so it was that Samuelson figured out that what he needed to do was not try to sit flat on the water, but sort of half submerge, stick the tips up, and rope. And that is exactly what he did. And when his brother gunned that converted Saxon engine boat, he skied on water for the very first time. And it's the same position, I'm told, that water skiers use to this day. Now, I'm told that because I myself have not been successful getting up on water skis. I'm not really built for it, I guess. So, in 2022, here's a picture of him water skiing. In 2022, at 4:11 p.m. on July 2nd, so last year, the town of Lake City, Minnesota, unveiled a statue, and it looks just like this, commemorating at the exactly 100 years to the minute the day that Samuelson skied upright on water. A testimony, a lasting testament to the power of sticking to your vision, no matter what the obstacles are in your way. That's what Sun Tzu was trying to say. You need to have a mission, a vision, a strategy, but if it's not in your heart, if it's not in your bones, then it's doomed to fail before you've begun. And that's what Jesus was talking about too. You can follow me, he said, but before you do, count the cost. Are you really all in? Are you all in on me? Jesus said. So friends, we have a mission, we have a vision, and we have a strategy. But none of this means one bit if we don't believe in our mission, are sold out to our vision, and determined to succeed. And really, that's up to you and me. For every battle is won or lost before it's fought. And we are told to count the cost. So let us do so. Let's pray.